I would like to welcome everyone to TAMA Talks, brought to you by the Torrance Art Museum Advocates. I'm Janine Madden, coming to you today from warm, just today, but still snowy and icy Boston, Massachusetts. I am the current TAMA president, and I really would like to thank you for tuning in today. Appreciate it. Today's talk will feature the work currently on view at the museum, the exhibition Quadrant in the main gallery. I really strongly recommend that you swing by to come in and see this excellent show before it closes on March 12th. TAM hours are Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., although they've recently had a few staffing issues, so please give them a call to make sure that they're going to be open on the day that you'd like to visit. The admission to the museum is free and always will be. The donations are accepted and appreciated. If you do need to reach out to the museum, their number is 310-618-6388, and they also can be found on the web at torranceartmuseum.com. The discussion today will be recorded and posted to our YouTube channel that also has all of our previous TAMA talks. I will throw that link into the chat once we get started. You can also get to it from our website, www.tamadvocates.com. We are joined today, although we're still figuring out how we can see her, but we can see her slides, and that's what we want to see. We are joined today by Los Angeles-based artist Carolyn Mason, one of the 4 curators for Quadrant. In her own right, Carolyn creates sculpture from a variety of both natural and manufactured materials that reflects a fascination with botanical and regenerative forms, creating what she calls hybrid objects. Born in Walnut Creek, California, Mason received her MFA degree in sculpture from Mills College in 2005. She has recently exhibited at Mount St. Mary's University, the Laband Art Gallery at Loyola Marymount University, as well as in a solo exhibition at Winslow Garage, all in Los Angeles, California. She has also exhibited and performed at Artists Television Access in San Francisco and at LAX. She has been awarded residencies at the Banff Center for the Arts and the Vermont Studio Center, for which she also received a fellowship. Her work has been featured in Elle Decoration, the UK edition, and Surface Design Journal, among others. Quadrant, New Voices at the Torrance Art Museum is her first curatorial project. So welcome, Carolyn. We are so excited to have you here today to talk about your quadrant of Quadrant. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the program over to you. I see that you're screen sharing, and we'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about the project, how you selected the artists, and what you learned from curating your first show.
Thank you so much, Janine, and thank you for your calmness as I tried to resolve some technical challenges. I was really grateful for this opportunity. Of the 4 Quadrant curators, I'm actually the only one who has never curated before. So it was a big deal for me, and I'm grateful that they chose me and took a chance on me. So I will talk about how I chose the artist. I thought I would talk about my fascination with mushrooms, and that led to the theme and the project. And so let's get started here. So this is some of my sculptural work, and I have long been fascinated by sort of the organic forms of mushrooms where there's clumping and spores. So I just wanted to show a few images to give you some background into my fascination or, obsession with mushroom-like forms that have given me inspiration. These are all sculptural objects. And then what happened is I read this book, and then I started getting interested in not just how mushrooms appear, but about the whole process and how they create mycelium, how they communicate with each other, how they even communicate with trees and share nutrients with trees. So for this show, I kind of put aside my formal interest in mushrooms and fungus and then concentrated on how they network, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to show you, this is an image of mycelium, which is underground. The fungus grows, and this is how they connect and communicate. This is a diagram, and it's from a science journal. It's complicated, but the point is all the green things are trees. The green kind of stars are trees, and everything else are different kinds of mushrooms. And what happens is the fungus can break down minerals that feeds the tree, and then the tree feeds the fungus glucose. And a couple of hundred years ago, the term, I have his name, yes, the German biologist Albert Frank coined the word symbiosis while studying fungi, noting the intricate entanglement between fungi and tree roots and suggesting that the relationship was mutually beneficial. Now, at that time, he was laughed at, and in the Western consciousness, the idea that two living beings could have a mutually beneficial relationship was unheard of. They thought, well, no, one living being is trying to like dominate or eat another. It couldn't, the idea of this mutually beneficial relationship was just unheard of. So this interested me. And so this art project was born. And in terms of mycelium, we decided collaboratively as a group when I proposed the topic and selected the artists, that instead of making our work look like or about directly, it would be our process of working, our process of communicating and collaborating with each other that would embody the nature of mycelium. So we all would share images of what we were working on, and then we would kind of respond to one another. And I'm hoping that viewers can pick up on this, but in any case, I'm going to go through the show and kind of show you how different objects are related to others. And as a product of our kind of, we use that term riffing off of each other. Like, oh, I like the colors you're using. I'm going to incorporate some of those in my piece. So we drew inspiration from one another as our projects were developing. And as far as the artists, I had actually done a collaborative project with these three artists at a nonprofit space in Chatsworth called Blowing in the Wind. And so I knew that these three artists were really interested in collaborating, and they were really open to working in a new way. And that's how I chose the artists. And also, we're all object makers and also all interested in regenerative topics in our work. So here is the show, and let's see if we can, I guess I don't really have a pointer, but we'll go through and I will kind of point out how we were riffing off each other. Okay, so this is a Venus of Willendorf, and why Joy DeMarco, the artist, did that form, I'll talk about it a little bit later. But there's this worm object, it's kind of swirling. And then if you look at Tony Brown's piece across the way, he has some wires hanging down that are also swirling. And then I work in fiber mostly. And if you notice the top of Tony Brown's piece, the black, that's actually pasta, but it kind of looks like yarn. And then what the object, sort of the pointed object below, is actually a very old ironing board. So he was also kind of riffing off my textile component. Okay, let's keep going. See what we have next. This is a close-up of Joy's piece. And speaking of the theme of collaboration, Joy collaborates with another artist who's really a scientist in her practice and works with AI. And they did a project where they collected dreams. And so all of us in this Quadrant show, we contributed dreams to her project. And then the AI spit out its own dreams because that's its reality. And it spit out a dream about a statue of Venus, of Willendorf, with a worm coming out of its face. So again, that's sort of all of us contributing dreams, and then this AI spitting out this image, and that's what she created. She works a lot with clay, and this is actually all made in paper clay. Oh, okay. This is a video. Okay. This is a video. This was a collaboration between myself and Joy DeMarco. And we were thinking about the underground because of the theme of the fungus and the mushrooms. And also the text in the video is all from the AI, like scrambling dreams and spitting them out. And the sound is of caves in Italy. Joy's originally from Italy. She went back to Italy last summer. She recorded sounds in caves. So again, we were thinking about just like the mycelium, it's underground, what you can't see. So these are pictures in caves, the sound of caves, and then feet kind of walking in the earth. And the text is from the AI generation. So this is just a short clip of the video. This is inside a cave. And the sound of inside the dripping water. And it's uncanny that some of the dreams were about caves and dirt. So it just like matched up very perfectly. Those are actually my feet walking in dirt. Here you can have a close-up look at Tony Brown's piece. He works with a lot of reclaimed objects, found objects. And I think I talked about the ironing board reference. Also, that ironing board is like a tower shape, which also references Andre Yee's towers. He calls them tents. And they're composed of lots of little bits of wood that he paints. So those two kind of forms mirror each other. And then my fiber piece is in the background on the wall. And you can see the relationship in the colors between my piece and Andre's piece. And also, you can't see it from this photo, but I gave Andre some of my felted wool, and there are strips of wool in his towers, if you look closely. So that was another conversation going on. Here is up close. So at the bottom, where there's a blue strip and there's a little squares of blue, that's actually wool felt that I gave him. And then you can see the wood that's hand painted, and then there's matchsticks, and he uses reclaimed wood. So that's also a theme among some of us here. This is my piece. And for this piece, I collected moth-eaten sweaters from my neighborhood. I had a moth visit my closet, and because I felt wool and work with wool, I knew what to do. And then I thought, maybe other people have moth-eaten sweaters. So I put a notice in Nextdoor, the community app. And then I drove around my neighborhood and collected random moth-eaten sweaters And then I boiled them to felt them so I could cut them up and then combine them. So in this case, I wasn't really collaborating with my group. I was also collaborating with my neighborhood to, yeah, that's an example of some of the holes, like, and with the nice wool sweaters, no one, they didn't think that Goodwill would want them, and people were just holding on to them. So they were happy to get rid of them, and I was happy to repurpose them. And that's a detail of my piece, which I called Sweatery Web. You can kind of see some of the ribbing. And then I will stop here.
Great. Awesome. When I'm not sure, and I'm so sorry if you had mentioned this, tell me again how you decided which artists you wanted to include in your portion of this show.
Yes, exactly. So because the theme that I wanted to explore with the fungus and the mycelium and the symbiotic relationships, I wanted to choose artists who were open to working in collaboration and open to sharing their process, sharing works in process, rather than just going off on their own and making a piece. So the other three artists all had worked in collaboration before with other people. And so that was the main factor. And then I also decided to choose people who made sculpture or objects. Although we did end up creating a video, because I work in sculpture and that's the medium that I feel more affinity with, more comfortable with for my first curatorial project.
Great.
So,
we have a question in the chat. What did you learn about curating and installing through this process, working with artists, hanging a show, thinking about connections, etc.?
yeah, it was challenging and also very rewarding. And I was lucky because Max also and Sune at the museum also were kind of there to support me and say, no, it looks great, and maybe tweak, move this a few inches. So they kind of helped out. I was forced to use some other parts of my brain, my organizational side, to keep tabs on everyone. So I had to be, very organized with timelines. So it was rewarding to use, another part of my my skill set that's perhaps a little bit more dormant. And I think because of COVID and quarantine, I found it very rewarding to have a project that was focused on connection and checking in and what are you working on and how, and oh, I want to connect with this aspect of your work, or someone saying, I want to connect with this aspect of your work. So it was, it brought a lot of, good feeling, I would say, to do a project like this during COVID, where we've been more limited. We haven't had as much contact or studio visits. So, and I learned that I like curating, and I also learned that it's an interesting way to explore a theme that I was already interested in my own work, but explore it in a totally different dimension with other people.
And so you may have addressed this already, but tell me, because my background is in biology and I am definitely a mycelium loving girl.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
so, so tell me again, like how that translated into your work in particular. So is the sculptural work that you have exhibited in the TAM right now pretty indicative of the work that you do, or did you also sort of stretch a little bit in what you in the kinds of work that you produce?
Well, I decided for a challenge to do something very different. So I'd never worked with reclaimed sweaters, and this is a wall piece, and I normally do more sculptural objects, or if
Okay.
there's something on a wall, it will be much more three-dimensional. So I know that early on I said our focus was not on the formal qualities of mycelium or the formal qualities of mushrooms or
Hmm.
fungus. It was really on the process. And that was the emphasis. However, I did also, in looking at diagrams of mycelium, I did bring in a feeling of web,
Right.
a web.
Yeah.
And so I did bring that in. I also, in terms of embodying the work, embodying a symbiotic relationship, which is, I mean, mushrooms and fungus, which the same thing, right? Mushrooms are the spores of fungus, but fungus can also destroy. It's not always, the relationship that fungus has with trees is the positive relationship where they exchange nutrients, and that's like the beautiful symbiosis. And that's what I focused on, because I will note that fungus can also destroy things, right? So that was not the element that I was focusing on. So the idea of also collecting moth-eaten sweaters that my neighbors didn't want and were holding on to and reclaiming that, I felt that was also sort of a community connection and exchange where I picked up these things people didn't want, and then I was able to turn them into art. And then as far as my work, I did use some of Andre's tents as some color cues, because I actually got a lot of other colored sweaters that are awaiting yet another piece. So the color palettes don't exactly match, but I was trying to use some browns to reference some of the wood, and then like some reds, so that I was in a conversation with his pieces.
So I'm not sure this piece was up when you were when you were there for the opening, but out on your piece, particularly that red swath there, is very tied in with Daniela Soberman's installation on the balcony. There's a pile of red yarn on the ground outside as part of her piece. And so it's a wonderful unintentional tie-in, because I'm not sure anybody anticipated her, LA art show piece coming over to the TAM after it. So it was
Right.
really a great tie-in to see that not only yarn, not only just a fabric material thing, but also that red color.
I the last time I was at the museum, she was setting it up, so I haven't
Oh,
seen it in its finished form. So I'll have to go back. And there was a lot of nice serendipity, because in Kang's project next to mine, there's a weaving that's like hanging right there. It almost could have been one show, weaving. There's no weaving here, but the weaving kind of references textiles. I'm working with the wool, so there was some nice unintended conversations happening, which was very fun.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask next is, was there any collaboration with the other three curators? Because when you walk into the show, it's not just jointed at all. It feels like there is a common thread running through all of it. And perhaps it is just because of the abstraction. But again, it's really quite startling when you walk in. You really would not guess that it's just four completely different shows comprised of so many different artists.
Exactly. And a lot of people mentioned that to me at the opening, like it looked like one big show. And the only thing I could think of is whoever chose the four curatorial proposals. That was the common. I don't know if unconsciously they chose 4 proposals that would kind of go together, or it was just good luck. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Because we were in touch, like, how's it going? I look forward to meeting you. It's exciting, but we did not collaborate or in any way. So that was just like a happy surprise.
Wonderful, wonderful. Eve must have been there because she said that was me. And so you must have chatted with Eve at the opening, but she indicated in the chat, she just said that was me. I assume she means the comment about the how cool it was to see it all together. Oh, sorry, Max. Oh, Max. It says Max, no E, not Eve. I don't know. I'm a little confused because I don't know. It shows that Eve's logged on. So I'm not sure, Max, if that's you or Eve. It must be one of you. Tell me who it is. But the question from the chat is, what future curatorial projects do you intend? And that is Max joining us. So
Max. I think I need a little time to answer that one, but I would definitely like to do another. And I think the next step would be doing something with a few more artists. This was my first curatorial project, and I kept it small, and I'm glad I did. I think that was a great place to start. And I could imagine just doing a few more artists. And I really like the collaborative element, as subtle as it may be to the viewer, but the process was so rewarding. And I think we all learned from one another, and it created like strong bonds and community and among us. And I think that's a theme that I would like to explore more. That's as far as I can elaborate at this moment. So I'm sure in the coming months I'll be brainstorming on what I'd like to do next. Possibly even taking this and adding more artists and expanding it.
Do you work out of a studio?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have a studio downtown.
Great, great. Well, I am going to open it up to whoever's logged on. If you'd like to ask a question of Carolyn in the chat, feel free. This is a perfect opportunity to do so. Very rarely, other than Max, very rarely do we get the opportunity to talk with curators. We often get to talk with artists, and actually many of our TAMA talks have included curators who are artists. So it's a unique perspective, and I think what you've offered us today in regard to that curatorial process is very insightful, because it's an aspect of putting together a show that a lot of us really don't think a lot about. There's a lot of moving parts and working parts that have to really, as you say, sort of symbiotically work together to make a successful show.
Yes, and I think also as an artist who's curating, my process was likely, and of all of us, in this Quadrant show, different than an academic curator who does not have a practice or has never had a practice, probably approaches it differently. So.
And before we had a couple of folks join us sort of toward the end. So would you mind running back through? You certainly don't have to explain any of them, but just visually, would you mind running back through the slides just to take a peek at the show?
Oh, the show.
So that's okay. No. Show your work as well. I think that it's quite cool. I love it.
Okay, so this is just showing some of my work as a starting point for the theme that I was so interested in, the book that got me so excited about mycelium, some photos of mycelium, a diagram of mushrooms and trees and all their connections underground. And there's an installation view of the show. And then this is in clay. That was the video. This is caves and AI generated text based on dreams that all of us in the show contributed to. This is Tony Brown, all reclaimed materials. Andre Yee and his towers, reclaimed wood that's painted. My piece in the back made from reclaimed moth-eaten sweaters. Detail of Andre's tower. It's my piece, sweatery web, moth-eaten sweater. The detail of my piece and another installation view.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much for joining us this afternoon. We're pleased with the folks who are able to join us, and as I mentioned, this has been recorded, and so we will go ahead and I'll do a little editing. We'll get it up on the website. Feel free to I'll throw out a link to it on Facebook, and I usually just put a little HTML of it on the website too. We have like a whole TAMA Talks page. The rest of this month, we will be having the remaining three curators from the show, and I am sorry, I don't have let me see if I can quickly bring up who's coming. It's probably out there. I know it's out there on Facebook, and I am unprepared I can tell you the dates. They are next Friday at 1 o'clock. I'm pretty sure that's when Kang is going to be doing his review. Let me just see if I can open up events really quick. Okay, so Friday, February 18th at 1 p.m. Yeah, Kang Nguyen will discuss the repetition of difference, and that will also be done via Zoom, and we will be recording that and posting it as well. And then again on Friday, February 25th at 1 p.m. California time, Joey Lehman Morris will be discussing Nocturnal 1 virtual via Zoom. And then the final Quadrant TAMA Talk is going to be on Friday, March 4th at 1 p.m. And we will be joined then by Lisa Rockford, who will be discussing Out of Bounds. So we're trying to get a Lynchland TAMA Talk scheduled with Tom Dunn and Stephen Wolkoff, but we may not do that like this one. We may just go ahead, because of schedule conflicts, we may just go ahead and do a recording when everybody is free, when he and Steve and Tom and Steve and I are free, and then just record it, have them tell us a little bit about that exhibition, which is in Gallery 2, and then post that online. So if there are no further questions from the gallery of folks who are joining us today, I will bid everyone a wonderful Valentine's, Super Bowl, Olympic weekend, and we will see you next Friday. Thanks again.
Thanks, Janine. Thanks,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Thanks, Carolyn. Bye, everyone.